All right, welcome today, everyone who's here, who made it possible. Congratulations. Make sure that you're in a location where you can totally pay attention, because in the next, you know, 30 to 35 minutes is going to be very, not only full of content, but I'm going to obviously do the best to explain it in a very simplistic way, especially if you're a beginner and looking to invest in multifamily or looking into, starting into the commercial world, right? So welcome to the Multifamily Real Estate for Beginners. My name is Raul Luna from Modesto, California, and I'm excited for every single one who's here in this webinar today in our weekly real estate talk show. So, and what I'm going to show you today, it's precisely what I've been applying in a very non-formal way on how to pretty much invest in a multifamily aspect. That's the way I do it. So you can, you can either grab some tidbits and put it into practice. The whole entire goal is to be it in the most simplistic way, because it shouldn't be complicated. Obviously, there is more depth that we could go to. That's not going to happen, obviously, in this type of webinar, because we want to make sure that, we stay within the time frame that it's already allotted to it, right? So for the people that don't know me, I've been in real estate for 18 years, basically, a little bit over. I attempted to purchase my very first fourplex when I was 16, didn't have the age. Nobody in the family wanted to help me. And I was able to basically buy my first multifamily, at the age of 19. I was from 18 going 19. And it was a triplex that later on I converted into a fourplex in Hayward, California. That's where my career as an investor began. Great lessons learned, the ups and downs that, the market cycle gives you, that you give yourself through all the emotional roller coaster that you go through. And as humans beings, we're an ocean of emotion, we're an ocean of emotion that we're always, in the ups and downs. So today we're going to cover, 4 items that are critical to the multifamily real estate for beginners. Okay. And number one, we're going to be covering, the numbers. Okay. The numbers are dramatically important that you know them in the multifamily for, the multifamily real estate for beginners. So regardless, if you're an experienced person, I want you to know that you're going to get to learn from, items or nuggets that you're going to be able to implement. And as well as if you're a beginner, it's going to be in a very simplified way on how to go and put it into practice. Because oftentimes, we make, for the most part, I remember when I was first starting real estate, things seemed very, very difficult. It almost seemed like there was not, almost like you had to become a scientist in order to invest in multifamily or in real estate. And I like to just dumb it down, keep it simple. We're going to go through the numbers, okay, which is very important, and you need to understand them. Number 2, the type of debt, okay. Number 3, we're going to talk about cash on cash, cap rate, and the evaluation formula that I use. Very simplistic to go ahead and put it into, offers that I make out there. And then number 4, growing market, okay. So from the number of units in the complex to basically the debt that it's available, to the cash on cash, cap rate, and the formula to use, and number 4, a growing market, okay? So you can focus on those 4 things, and I'm going to repeat it again and again, over and over. Now, it's important to know, ladies and gentlemen, what makes the apartment, what makes multifamily become commercial at one point. And something very basic is 5 units and more, it's going to be considered commercial, okay? Multifamily is composed of, 2 units or more in general. And I'm just going to touch into basics. You may know it, you may not know it. Keep in mind, it's very important to just keep it very simple. 2 units, duplex, 2 houses in one lot. You could say 2 houses in one lot. In reality, anything that is 2 or more, it's multifamily. 3, triplex, multifamily. 4 units, multifamily. But in this case, for purposes of multifamily description and the type of debt, anything that is 2 units to 4 units is still considered as residential guidelines for debt purposes. It's still considered as basically, you're going to be able to get residential treatment from many various different ways out there. Okay, so in anything that it's 5 units and more, it's considered commercial, even though it's still multifamily. Right. So what we're going to be talking here today is 5 units and up. We're going to be focusing on the commercial multifamily. Okay. Now, 5 units and up is treated completely different from the lending perspective to the, basically management perspective. There is a whole bunch of different set of rules, even though the bigger the complex, I think it's the easier to manage and the easier to get even a loan into it. You may disagree with that, especially if you're beginning here in real estate. That's fine. I don't need you to agree on anything that I'm actually sharing here. As a matter of fact, I'm sharing what I've done in my career. You will decide and you will be the judge if you want to put it into practice and see some results, for your life as well. Okay. So anything that has to be related to taxes or anything of that nature, refer to your CPA. I can only share, things that I put into practice, but it's very different depending on your investment model. So number one, let's get started. Number of units. First, I want to classify, like I already did, the 5 units plus. In California, and I'm pretty sure it may be true even nationwide, it's that whenever you hit 16 units and more, now by law, you are required to have an on-site manager. Just understand those little things, all right? 16 units and up. And then, and that is important to know because imagine if you're, trying to underwrite or evaluate a 20-unit building, but you're not evaluating or you're not adding what you're going to have to pay someone to be living on site, basically full time, or any sort of payment arrangement that you're going to have to do for that person. And then 100 units plus. Okay, 100 units plus. One of the things is when you hit 100 units plus, and I can tell you this from experience after buying, my partners and I, after buying here the 56 units in California, I can tell you this for sure, that 100 plus units, it's right the minimum mark where you can start affording full-time, better quality level employees, okay? Full-time people that you can bring on board, at least 2 of them. When you have anything less, typically you're gonna have to get creative, or you are gonna have to basically settle for things that are not in the highest quality. And I'm talking about management aspect. I can share this obviously from experience. So the numbers matter. The numbers of the building that you're looking to invest or that you're evaluating or that you're looking to put into contract or whatever it is, it matters. When I first started investing in multifamily, I was limited in my belief. I was thinking, obviously, the smaller, to a certain degree, I thought it was the better. And it is true, depending on what is it that you're trying to accomplish. In my case, the very first thing that I was trying to accomplish when I was hitting my 19th birthday was I want to buy something that pays on its own where I can live for free forever. And basically, that's how I was able to basically arrive at a level where I wasn't paying any more rent or mortgage because the 3 other tenants were paying for the whole thing. See, that was my accomplishment. Obviously, that was small thinking. Now that I see the way I think today was totally very limited small thinking. Now, it's okay. It was for beginners, right? I was starting. I couldn't see past that. I didn't have the money. I had all these limiting beliefs. And all of that, ladies and gentlemen, is completely erroneous, because you could buy a bigger complex with no money or with very little money or very creatively. And I'm going to obviously showcase a study. I'm going to share a case study here on a building that I did that in a 5-unit building, So anyways, even on the 56-unit building, okay? So either a small one or a bigger one, the principles applied the same. So the number of units, keep this in mind, all right? Rule number one, the number of units, the bigger the complex, just keep this in mind, the easier it is to manage, the better quality employees you're going to be able to attract, and at the same time, the better it is or easier it is to get a loan. Why? Because the more tenants that are paying rent to that single mortgage or multiple mortgages, it's gonna be much easier, simpler. The bank, when you go commercial, 5 units or up, the bank sees more the asset, the multifamily, the real estate, as a repayment back, not necessarily too heavy into the person who's actually getting the loan. Okay, so keep that in mind. 5 units and up, it's more asset driven for the lender. Anything less than that, it's more credit driven. Okay, now they will still look at your credit, they will still do that, all right? But keep that in mind. So I prefer today that if I can get the bigger the size of the building, the better. Usually, with my experience on the 56-unit building, we can hire one full-time employee, and that's pretty much about it. Okay, now picture this: when that employee, which is full-time on-site manager, wants to go on vacation or whatever it is, it's kind of limited, right? Now, you got to get a property, the property manager has to, a management company has to take over and things of that nature. That's why I was saying that even anything less than 100, it's going to be run by one employee plus a property management company. So my advice will be the bigger the better. Now, personally, because I've learned it, because I've experienced it, now I'm looking for 100 units and up. I'm not going to say no to anything less, so don't get me wrong, which means that if you find a stunning great deal, that is less than 100, do the numbers, and we're going to go and run those numbers together, okay? Second rule is the debt. What type of debt can you get into that asset? Commercial usually is very typical that you're going to have to come up with a 25 to 30% down. Is very, very common, very typical. Now, it all depends. That's the best debt that I've seen out there on the market is the Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. In other words, is the government debt, because it's extremely cheap money, or the institutional lender debt, the regular, the banks out there. Now, they don't get as creative, so let me put it this way. There is institutional debt, and then there is bridge loans debt. And the difference is institutional is more of a long-term loans, the 7-year, the 10-year, the 12-year loans amortized, over 25 or 30 years. And then the bridge loan is the loan that you only need it for about 18 months to 3 years max. And then you're going to refinance out of it and put more of a permanent loan or more of a long-term loan. So a bridge is, the word says it's a bridge. It just helps you cross, from point A to point B, but then to go to point C, you're going to need, obviously to refinance at that time. So that's the difference on the debt. Now, why is it important to know what type of debt that multifamily complex is going to be able to attract? Throughout my personal experience, I've noticed that if the multifamily, it's on a very rural space, an extremely small town, usually only local lenders are going to want to touch it, or Freddie Mac or Freddie Mae have certain standards that they won't touch. So that's why I prefer cities that are, either that are already established, that are not too rural, but at the same time, that there's, job growth, there's economics there, and we're going to go through that as well. But the debt is important. Before you get into the deal, it's very important to understand what type of debt am I gonna be able to attract. If the building is 50% vacant, you're not gonna attract a loan from a regular institutional lender, or not. You're not gonna attract Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac funding. You're more than likely gonna need a bridge loan or a hard money loan. If the multifamily building, it has a lot of deferred maintenance or a lot of issues with poor quality building, once again, it's not going to be touched by the traditional. You're going to have to go on a non-traditional loan. That is important, because when I first started in my multifamily career, I was buying anything. Like, I was buying some little shacks that was dilapidated. I remember one, and I was learning debt to coverage ratios, and I was learning all this stuff that we're going to touch on it very briefly, and learned a lot, because I noticed that the more separate structures in a property, the more maintenance you're going to go through. The more things that can go not wrong, but the more budget that you're going to have, because the more roofs that you have under the same property or under the same land, you're going to have more work to be done. And I wasn't paying attention to that. I was more like, I'm just going to go ahead out there. I'm going to do it, and learning in the process. Today, I can tell you there's better ways to learn. Definitely, by making a mistake is one of them. But by learning from the experience of other people that has gone there, that has been there, trust me, it's a wiser way to obviously make things better for you in this case. Okay, so anyways, debt, be ready that, you're going to need anywhere from 20 to all the way to 30% down, if not more. Now, I never said it has to be your money. It could be anybody else's money, right? You can bring a partner, that partner puts the 20 or 30% down. You can do many creative ways. You can get the seller to basically seller finance you a 20% or the 30% on a second lien. As a matter of fact, this takes me to a property. It was on Ohio Avenue, Richmond, California. And I'm going back, almost at the beginning of my career. Okay. And this is, I was probably about 20 years of age or less, maybe, yeah, about 20 years of age, when I was buying properties that was, they were long-term on the market. They couldn't sell them. They were troubled properties for the actual owner at the time. And I remember an African-American guy, very nice gentleman, got connected, noticed that his property was on the market for about 6 months, asked him why, the property wasn't selling, why he thought it wasn't selling. And he said that, it was due to the fact that the tenants were hard to deal with, and they were, not only was hard to deal with, there was rent control challenges as well, a lot of things, some of them were late, etc. And it was my very first experience that he was willing to lend, in this case, to be able to get rid of the property. He was willing to lend 20% in a second lien position. Let me explain that. He was willing to say, I remember I bought it, I think it was for $360,000. So if you do the math, let me get a calculator here. 360,000, 20% of that. He lent me $72,000 at zero interest. Okay, zero interest, for 5 years. And it was my very first time that I was using a regular loan, which took forever to approve, because the traditional lender didn't really like it, but they were doing it because the numbers made sense. Where the seller actually did 20% on a second loan, meaning the first lender was the bank, second lender was, now this is pre-crash, okay? This is way back, the pre-crash. So lenders were a little open to even creativity, more creativity than they are today. So anyways, the lender allowed it, 20%, and I was able to, I think it was 10% or something like that. Percent from seller. Can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me? On a chat? Yep, now you guys can. Beautiful. Appreciate it. Kind of lost connection there for a moment. Okay, anyways, the lender allowed it, but it took forever. And that was just to mention to you that 20% came from the seller, 10% came from me, and then 70% came from the lender. And it was a 4-unit building, bought it for 360, cleaned it up, made, obviously, put new tenants, converted it from 1 bedrooms into 2 bedrooms, 1 bath. And then later on, I think I sold it for like $700 and something thousand. But that was one scenario. Debt was very important. The seller was willing to obviously be creative. Now that wasn't a 4-unit. It was still under residential guidelines. It wasn't commercial multifamily. But I will show you on a commercial multifamily that happened, which works really, really well. So debt, just remember, it's important. Now there is something that is very critical for you to understand. It's called the DSCR, which stands for debt service coverage ratio. Okay, and what that means is that a lender is going to want to make sure that the property has at least, and some lenders are different. I'm just giving you generals. They're going to want 1.25 of the DSCR, which stands for debt, service coverage ratio. And what it is in simple terms is the lender wants to see that the property brings in, for every dollar that you gotta basically pay out to the lender, they want to see $1.25. So in other words, they wanna see that whatever the debt is, they want to see 1.25 more coming in after everything is basically paid off, from the monthly payment to the property tax to the insurance to everything. So there's got to be 25 cents left after you make 100% all the payments and all the bills of that building. Does it make sense? So that's, in a nutshell, that's what it really means. It's a formula that they use to measure if they're going to lend on it or not. Okay. They want to make sure that basically the building is producing enough income to pay for the debt. If the building produces enough income to pay for the debt, it's going to pay off. Now, you don't need to know how to calculate it. This is not obviously this webinar. We didn't do this webinar to calculate it. Just keep it in mind. Is one of the things that is going to be required. And usually when you provide those numbers to the lender, they'll quickly be able to do the numbers for you and tell you, oh, this one is a great one. It's got a 1.4 DSCR, and they'll tell you right away. Or they'll tell you, hey, it doesn't meet the DSCR requirements. It's only 1.10. And every lender is different. Some lenders are okay with 1.15, depending on the area, depending on the market, and things of that nature. So just understand that it's there. They want to see a little bit more than, for every dollar that you're paying the lender, they want to see $1.25 coming in, basically. Okay. And then we're going to enter into number 3, which is cash on cash, cap rate, and the formula that I personally use. Okay. And it's very simple. Okay, guys and girls, what it is basically cash on cash. When I'm going to invest in multifamily, the most important thing for me is the cash on cash that building is going to produce. And let me give you a scenario as an example. Okay, we not too long ago closed on a property in Merced, California, And I'm going to talk about on the smaller scale. It's a 5-unit, the same thing with a 56-unit. But the 5-unit building, and I'm writing it down here on my notepad. The 5-unit building, it's a 2-bedroom, 1.5 bath condo style. That when we first bought it, we bought it at $305,000. Okay, 305. Now, understand this: the rents back then, okay, and we're gonna do it together. The rents were $400 each times 5. Do the math. It was 400. Okay, and follow me here with the calculations. It was $2,000 in basically gross income coming in. Total gross income, it was $2,000. Now, the deal that we did with the seller was that we were going to do 10% down, and he was going to finance out of that $305,000. He was going to finance 90%, which is $274,500. He was going to finance $274,500 at a rate of I think it was, and I don't remember exactly, but I think it was give me a second, 4%. 4% for 5 years. The property was in very bad condition. Now, cash on cash, the reason why I'm doing this calculation with you is because I want you to go with me on the cash on cash. The mortgage payment was $915 interest only, $915 per month. Okay. Now, the taxes, property taxes, roughly on this one, the way I calculate property taxes is 1.25% of the purchase price. So if we bought it for 305 times 1.25% divided by 12, it's about $317 in property tax. Insurance is $3,500 roughly, plus or minus. That's about another $291. Utilities, you can just, roughly say about another $250. These are, obviously all these numbers, you're going to get it from the seller. So now let's add up those numbers so that you can see it, okay? 915 plus 317 plus 291 plus 250. That was $1,773. That was everything included. So if you notice, if you notice, my income was $2,000. My income was $2,000, but the expenses was close to $2,000, leaving $227 in supposed cash flow, but it's not cash flow. Why? Because we haven't accounted for reserves, we haven't accounted for repairs, we haven't accounted for property management, things of that nature. But I wasn't seeing this. A 2-bedroom, 1.5 bath in Merced could rent for $1,050. That's what I was seeing. I was seeing the $1,050. I'm thinking, well, $400 is extremely cheap. I can understand in the condition that the building is in. That's why he's only pulling $400. People are leaving there because, it's cheap, not because they like it. It's because, $400 is really nothing. So what we decided to do is we decided to renovate it. And now all the rents, are at $1,050 each unit. So do the math. What I was looking at, it was $5,250. That's what I was looking at. Now, keep in mind, when I first bought it, because this building or this multifamily building qualifies as a distressed building, high deferred maintenance, obviously it had to be acquired in a creative way, bridge loan. In this case, happens to be the seller. Seller understood that he had a lot of work. We ended up investing $110,000 into this building to make it look super nice, super nice. Okay. Now every unit got basically renovated. The entire building got renovated. Now every unit brings in, basically the same. It brings in 52. Now the building brings 5250. Okay, 5,500, 5250. Now, cash on cash. What is cash on cash? Cash on cash is nothing more than the money that you're putting in. The money that you're putting in. How much money is that money making you? The money that you invested. In this deal, it's infinite cash on cash. The reason is because all the money that I put in, got it back when I refinanced. So therefore, I'll give you the numbers and we'll calculate it. So more importantly, when I'm looking at an investment, I want to know what the cash on cash is. And let's do the numbers here together. I'm going to share now my formula, okay? Write down $5,250 a month. That's what the building is doing right now. Times 12 months. That's $63,000 a year, okay? So I took the building from $24,000 to $63,000 in a yearly basis. My formula, listen at this, my formula is 65%. It's not a perfect formula, is not the only formula, is not the one formula fits all, but it's a very simple, fast way, quick way of doing multifamily evaluation for beginners, okay? Why 65%? 35% of all gross income is going to go into vacancy, into property management, into some sort of repair, you know, or maintenance. It's going to go into bills, utility bills, and insurance and taxes. So write that down. Between 35 to 40%. You want to be ultra conservative? Do 40%. Understanding this is important. When the building has only one water meter, one electrical meter, one gas meter for the whole complex, then the formula is not true. Then you got to do more like 50-50. But when the building has gas, separately meter for electric, separately meter for gas, and it's only the water, for instance, that it's on a master meter, and the garbage, then the 35 to 40%, you know, tends to hold true. Now, I usually use, you know, depending on the property, I use from 35 to 40%. We could even do 40% to be conservative. Let's just do 40% on this one. 63,000 times 60%. 60% is what's going to be left before the debt gets covered, okay? Before the debt. So in this case, $37,800 is what is called my NOI, net operating income. NOI stands for net operating income, which means that you have paid basically everything except the lender. You still got to pay the lender from here, okay? Now, $37,800. Let's assume that I put in 110, which I did. It's not assumption, it's actually I did, plus the 10% down, okay, the 10% down of 305,000, 10% down was, give me a second, 10% is 30,000. I'm just going to round it up, $140,000, okay? Now, that's what I put into the deal. Now, if you notice, the building is producing 38,200, okay? I think it was 63,000 times 60%. Oh, 37,800, I'm sorry. Now we're gonna deduct the $950 mortgage payment, okay? Mortgage payment times 12. That means in mortgage payment I'm making, I'm just gonna round it off, $11,000, okay? So watch this, pay close attention. 37,800 minus 11,000, that's my NOI. Remember, 37,800 is the NOI. It's what is basically after paying everything except the lender. That means my cash flow on a yearly basis is 26,800 divided by 12. That's $2,233 a month. One deal. Okay. Now, understand this. In a yearly basis, it's going to be 26,000. What was it again? Let's do the numbers again. I'm sorry. 37,800 minus 11,000. That's 26,800. You divide your cash flow, your net cash flow. You divide that by what you put in. Okay, in this case, I put in $140,000. I'm dividing it. That means I'm making 19.1 cash on cash. So my money is making 19% cash on cash if I had not refinanced it. Because I refinanced, because I pulled 100% all the money out, I have a second payment. That's true if I had not refinanced. You see why? To me, I don't care about the cap rate. I don't care about the, necessarily about the appraisal. I care about the location. I care about the character of the building. I care about the cash on cash. I care about, a market that is growing. I care about job growth. I care about all those things. But when you have such a good deal, you gotta have lenses that gives you the ability to, pass, to be able to see through the clutter. Because this was not a nice, I mean, it was a very high deferred maintenance building, by the way. So, and when in doubt, always reach out to me, always reach out. I'll be more than happy to help you on it. But that's just to let you know that this is a 19% cash on cash deal. Now, let's assume, or not assume, let's do the real numbers. It becomes an infinite because I put in a second loan there. Okay, a second loan from when I refinance from a hard money, so the first lender, the first loan position, it's a hard money lender now, which, got me all the money back out. I think it's 9%. So I'm paying an extra 1,050 plus 915. It's 1965. So now I'm paying $23,600 in mortgage payment a year. Now picture this, 23, I'm just going to round it off, 24,000. Well, I'm collecting 37,800 NOI, which is net operating income, which is, basically what's left over before paying debt. Let's pay the $24,000 debt to both lenders. Now it leaves me with 13,800 every single year. Plus, I was able to have all the money back to deploy it somewhere else. So the quadrant, or the 4 top rules that I use for multifamily investing for beginners is basically that, the numbers. The bigger the complex, the better. Easier to manage, easier to, get a debt on, and the more NOI, the bigger the gross income, the more tenants, the easier it becomes to pay even the debt. Okay. The second thing is the cash on cash. What is the cash on cash? Yeah, cap rate is important. Now, what is a cap rate? Okay, so we learned cash on cash is basically the money that you put in and what that money is making you in return after it's all said and done. Basically, after you pay 100%, all the, the expenses that you got to pay on that building, the net divided by the money you brought in, that is your cash on cash. And if you're getting a partner, or if you're getting an investor, you're raising money to put into this, that's how you actually get it. It's your bottom profit of that deal divided by the money that was put in. That's going to give you your cash on cash. To me, that's more important. My formula, it's a 35-40% of the gross income. I got to take it off the top because it's going to go into all of the expenses that you can think of, okay, including vacancy factor, and with the exception of the mortgage payments, okay? That's the easiest way that I can put it. So if the building makes, $100,000 a year in income, well, guess what? $40,000 is going to go into taxes, insurance, into reserves, maintenance, management, utility bills, vacancy factor, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the 60,000, or the 60%, the 60,000 is going to be to pay the loan, okay? And then whatever is left over is your basically bottom line profit before taxes. That divided by the money that you brought in gives you the cash on cash. Cap rate, it stands for capitalization rate. And what it is basically, ladies and gentlemen, what it is basically, and I'll get to your questions, okay? What it is, the capitalization rate is what are properties selling on the market for? What cap rate are they selling? And you could get that very easily by reaching out commercial, multifamily commercial brokers or agents, and they'll be able to give you an idea. Or you could, look at what other properties have sold in the market using, like CoStar.com or LoopNet.com or things of that nature. I'm not too cap rate driven more than what I am, cash on cash, because I showed you, I didn't care, if the building is worth, $600,000, $700,000. What I care, if I'm going to buy and hold it, I care more for the cash on cash. I do gotta like other factors that you're going to see here. So cap rate, it's just, it's a way that basically if you were to pay 100%, the property, okay, so there was no loan on the property, that's what your money will be basically earning. But it's not, to me, it's really, I don't use it as much. Anyways, I use the formula. So very simple. From now on, when you get a deal that is out there, put it to the test. Do the 35% deduction out of the entire gross of the gross rental income, or want to be conservative, do 40%. It's going to land somewhere there. If there's more than 40%, then keep in mind that something is not right. If it's 50% of if when you get the numbers from a broker, from the seller, from whoever, if the expenses is more than 50%, there could be some serious distress on the property, mismanagement, leakage of expenses or things of that nature. And what I've measured is 35 to 40% is where, 35% is when they're running the property really, really well. 40% is more of the medium, okay? And try it for yourself and see obviously how it works. Then the last thing that I want to cover before we get into the answers is the growing market. The fourth rule to multifamily investing for beginners is pay attention to a growing market. Make sure that you understand, I like to invest on markets that have population growth, that has job growth, that has that the median value of a home has been growing as well, that there is diversity of jobs in that market. It's very important, because if you don't, just because the numbers make sense and you're not paying attention to the market growth, then it's a matter of time when it's going to come back and hurt you. So to give you an example, okay, I'll give you an example. In Los Banos, which is that we closed recently, probably about a month ago, on our 56 unit building. When I selected all these numbers, like we went through all of this, the 4 rules, everything checked, with the exception that it wasn't 100 units or more, but the numbers made sense. It's on a growing market. Where do you go to check? Well, go to city-data.com and put you can put the city and the state, and it'll give you a ton of information. Yes, it's not up to date on a 2019, but doesn't matter. It gives you at least, something to work with. You want to know if the population is growing, go to Google and hit, the city and state population, and then it'll tell you there. City data, it gives you, more information, but, the internet, it's obviously can help you in making phone calls with, agents and things of that nature. To give you an example, Los Banos, when I looked at what has been happening, there's been, for the past 30 years, the rate growth, population growth has grown 5% nonstop for the past 30 years. The job growth has been growing obviously as well. The medium home prices has been growing as well. So the rental market has been growing, and nobody's building multifamily. So there's a huge shortage of multifamily in Los Banos, but when you do the numbers, it made sense. And keep in mind, if you stick to your, to what I shared here, because that's the way I do it, in a very simplistic format. Of course, there's depth to it. You're going to have to dive very, very deep into it later on. But, that's for another webinar. That's for another, obviously, course here. If you have those four things, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to be able to identify great deals. So what I suggest is, or what I advise is basically make sure that the building has rental rental value add where you can take rents even higher. So check for things like that. The market has to be great. On my Merced deal, the character of the building was looking good. The structure of the building was looking really good. The location of the building was looking really good. It's close to downtown. The market has been growing. There is diversity of job. There is the university there. The rents were really, really low. The market rents was, super good, and the numbers made sense. Even when I originally plugged in the original numbers, it didn't make any sense. But I wasn't looking at those numbers. You need to understand that I was looking at what the market was telling me that was possible. Will those numbers make sense? And how fast can I take that building there? This building took me about, 7 months to fully stabilize it. So basically you've noticed, you just found out that it's a 19%. By the way, the ARV of this building is about 650. So if you do the math, makes sense all the way around. But what is it that I did? Well, numbers, 5 units plus commercial, wasn't thrilled about that. But I wanted it for the building to be bigger, but the numbers make sense. The debt was good. It was from a seller. He was willing to seller finance 90% with only 10% down at extremely low rate as a 4%. And then the cash on cash, was stunningly great. Cap rate, I didn't even look at that. The ongoing cap rate there, I think, is about 6%. I probably bought this thing at a 4%, which was, that's why I don't pay attention to cap rate, because if I was doing cap rate and cash on cash on the actual numbers, it's going to deceive you. Now you got to be realistic with yourself as well. Okay. And then the market was, great market. So basically that's in a nutshell, right? Now I'm going to go ahead and do the questions, ladies and gentlemen. If you got any questions, this is the time, right? Let's see here. This is meat on the bone. Awesome. Which one is the net cash flow? Ms. Laree, the net, and I'm exaggerating here, the absolute net, the net, spendable money, it's after deducting everything, including the mortgage, okay? Net is take-home money, basically. Obviously, you still got to pay taxes to Uncle Sam for whatever the cash flow is, but that's pre-tax money. In this case, in my building in Merced, is after you pay utility bills, insurance, after you pay reserves, vacancy, after you deduct everything, including mortgage, including property tax, that's the net, the absolute net, spendable money. That's the basically the cash flow of your building. So hopefully that helps you. Will a broker give you the number before you make an offer and it is a pro forma package you want to ask for? Great question. By the way, I do get the operating memorandum from the brokers. I honestly I never, ever believe the pro formas of the brokers. And the reason being is because, keep in mind, they want to sell it. They're going to give you numbers that, because they don't have money of their own in the deal, they're going to give you a very optimistic outlook of what it could happen. So I look at it, but I never take it into consideration. I do my own numbers, and basically I go off of my own analysis. And then as you get bigger into bigger projects, bigger complexes, I do my own numbers, and then I hire a third-party company that does their own numbers as well. Or the property management company that you're going to hire can do a separate round of numbers, and then you kind of confirm with what you have there. So yeah, you could ask for the pro formas, but I will never pay attention to them, because I want to invest in a way that it's conservative, because the number one rule is to protect, to protect your investors' capital, or even if you don't have investors, to protect your capital is the number one rule. Okay, so so that's what it is. Now, how did you come up with 1,050 per unit before making improvements? Before it was 400. Great question, Mr. Carlos. Very simple. And I don't know if I'm able to see here. Let me share the screen. I'm going to try to share the screen, ladies and gentlemen. Give me a second. I'm actually going to stop I'm going to stop the camera, and I'm going to share my screen so that I can show you something, okay? Let me see if I'm able. Let me know if the screen is being shared. Can you guys see my screen? Let me know here. And if you guys can, I want to show them to you so that you can see obviously what I'm talking about. Okay. If you're able to see it, let me know. Yep. Okay. So I'm gonna go to something called Rent-O-Meter, and I'm gonna put the address of this building. Okay. I'm gonna put the address of the building. Basically, you should be able to see it here. And I'm gonna go ahead and put the address of. So you can select any address. And I'm just gonna go ahead and do this, and I'm gonna put 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, and I'm gonna put basically half a mile. I want to do half a mile for the last 12 months. I want to see what 2 bedrooms are going for, and look what he's telling me here. He's saying that average is 992, median is 1,025, and 80% of all rents has gone from 750 to 1,200. Okay. In my case, a $25 premium. So if you go here, and then you can go very, very much into depth. Now, this is going not more detail than for beginners. Okay. But it's okay. If you notice here, look what this one is renting for. $1,200, 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, 1 bath house for $1,200. Look, this one, 900, 1,050. Hey, 1,050, 750. So this will give you, a median. I will go with a median, 1,025. Once again, this is only one way. And then I don't only do that. I got to do this. And then I got to go to apartments.com. I will go to apartments.com and see what is available. The Rent-O-Meter is what has been rented for. The apartments.com is what it's available in the market. So you're going to go by location, Merced, California, and then you're going to say, okay, I want to select 2 bedrooms. So there's some underwriting that you're going to have to go through. Okay, look, there's one available for 1,150, but it looks like, it's got a swimming pool. One that is 1,100, 1,275, 1,200. So I'm way below, see, 1,055, 950, So do you see that there's a lot of them available over 1,100? Does that answer your question? I don't know if that answers your question, but that's how I did it, basically. And so when I noticed that it was 400, and I go there and I see that it's, 800, 900. This is the funny thing, okay? I'm going to give you a ninja tip. Do you guys want a ninja tip here? If you guys want a ninja tip, let me know in the chat. Otherwise, I won't share it because we got to conclude here. I'll give you a ninja tip right now, right? You guys ready for this? All right. I don't see many yeses. Okay, I started seeing it. All right. Let me share this. When I went to Rent-O-Meter.com, Rent-O-Meter was telling me that rents were about 750 to 850. Okay, that's what Rent-O-Meter was telling me. When I went to apartments.com, when I went to Craigslist, when I went to, other websites, everything available, listen to this, everything available was above 1,025. And that's when I said, oh my goodness, Rental Meter is taking old data, past, already rented. Apartments.com is what is available. When I bought this building, I bought it thinking that I was going to be able to rent it for $800 each unit, $850 max. The moment I saw that Apartments.com, Craigslist, and I think it was Zillow, and I think it was, I even other, I think it was Hotpad.com or something like that, and notice that everything available that it was available for rent was at 1,025, 1,095. That was the epiphany moment. That was the ninja tip. That's when I said, you know what? Rental Meter is grabbing all data. So that means I'm going to test mine for 1,050. And bam, started to rent really fast, really fast. The lesson, the ninja tip, is that just because Rental Meter tells you that that's what is rented is not confirmation that that's what it is. I got to check what is rented, what has been rented for. I got to check what is available. And I got to call them and basically become like and I guess become a tenant at the moment so that I can ask a whole bunch of questions. And from amenities, it goes very deeply, ladies and gentlemen. But in a nutshell, it's almost like when you're going to comp out a property, the value of the property. Okay, what do you got rented? What are the amenities of that apartment, and what is available apartments going for? In my case, I was excited because if I was going to put my building at $850 per unit and everything available was at 1,025, I said it's going to rent dramatically fast. I said, let me test it. Let me just test it at 1,050. If I'm going to be profitable at 850, let me just do a test. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, so be it. I was still at 850. And guess what happened? It worked. That's the ninja tip. So congratulations, for being here with me today. One other question: do you use any software that analyzes the deals for you, or do you do old school? I do. But I still do it old school. I do it old school, like I mentioned to you, the 40-60 formula, very simplistic. If that gives me a sense of working, I then plug it into a software. And the software, it's a commercial software that I personally got from one of my systems from Fortune Builders. I'm part of a great community called Fortune Builders. By the way, I don't get paid for obviously mentioning them or anything. I just like the fact that I get to learn certain aspects and systems from them, and that's I use theirs, and then I use also another one that I created with a good friend of mine. So I kind of cross-reference it. But for purposes of this webinar, ladies and gentlemen, keep it simple. Identify a deal that you could put your hands on. If you need help, bring it on to me. Let me know, and I'll be more than happy, more than gladly to help you and let you know right away if it's a deal or not. And then and then we'll take it from there. So hopefully that helps you there. Then will the inverse Apartments.com below the rental meter number be a red flag that the market is falling, or how would you need to validate such an indicator? Then would the inverse Apartments.com below the rental meter number? Great questions, by the way, Mr. John. The thing of it is I don't take the data from the Apartments.com or rental meter as confirmed data. I have to call active property managers, and when I call them, and I mean call, I may have my assistant do it and act as if she's interested in one of the apartments, and basically just confirm amenities, confirm the rent rate, confirm many factors. And at the same time, where I go around the neighborhood and basically knock on doors, or if I see tenants outside a building, I would ask them, hey, how long have you been here? I'm looking to move into the area. What are the rents are like? Or if you don't mind asking, what are you paying, or things like that. So I gotta confirm. I don't just take it just as definite. I will say this: it's the data that I get from rental meter or apartments.com is good enough for me to submit an offer, and then I will confirm in my due diligence period. Does it make sense? So I don't know if that answered your question, Mr. John, but then, or if I understood it right, you're saying basically, okay, awesome. Then and you'll be able to realize if the market's coming down or in the rental rates, you will see it. I mean, you will notice it by, once again, making those calls, those confirmations, and we do it every single time. As a matter of fact, I'll give you a second ninja tip. The second ninja tip, before I even close on a multifamily deal, okay? Before I even close on a multifamily deal, I actually put a ghost ad as if I was renting already the units so that I can see what's the traffic like. Powerful, powerful, powerful. I hope that you're really paying attention. I'm pretty sure you wasn't thinking, you were not thinking of that. But anyways, congratulations, ladies and gentlemen, for being here with me today. We went well above the timing that I wanted, but wanted it to obviously give it all to you. So just as a summary, the numbers matter, okay? Whether it's a 5-unit, 16-unit, 100 units, the debt matter, okay? Debt, what type of debt can you put into the property? Rule number 3, it's basically the cash on cash and the formula, the 60-40 formula and the capitalization rate. And, rule number 4, make sure that you're looking at a growing market, okay? It's got to be a growing market. So anyhow, those are the 4 rules to multifamily investing for basically for beginners. And we get to see you next Wednesday at the same time. Visit our newly launched program that we just did, which is real estate investing, and stands for REI profitvault.com. Okay, go to that website, check it out. I invite you to be a part of it, because I know for sure that if you're serious on your real estate investing career, then you want to uncover, profits from that vault that will give you obviously a bigger way and a more creative way of how is it that you're going to be able to invest as well. Okay, so congratulations for being here with me. We'll get to see you next time. Thank you very much. Raul Luna from Modesto.